In this session, we're going to look at Jesus' famous teaching on forgiveness, where he totally blows Peter's mind about how many times he has to forgive someone. We find this teaching in both Luke 17 and in Matthew 18. In Matthew 18, 15 to 22, here's what we find. Jesus said, "If another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. If the member listens to you, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you, so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If the member refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church, and if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you, if 2 of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them." Then Peter came and said to him, "Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times?" Jesus said to him, "Not 7 times, but I tell you, 70 times 7 times. This teaching, and particularly the 70 times 7 bit, has been widely interpreted as meaning that forgiveness is meant to be boundless. 70 times 7 is probably a reference to Genesis 4:24, where a disgruntled man named Lamech insists that he will avenge himself 77-fold, which means he's just gonna keep on seeking revenge forever. Here in Matthew, Jesus seems to flip that around to mean that we are supposed to just keep on forgiving forever. Peter here thinks he's being a pretty good guy, offering to forgive a person 7 times, but Jesus wants to stretch his understanding on the bounds of forgiveness a little bit further than that. Remember this, though. This interaction with Peter is certainly attached to what had been previously said on forgiveness just a few verses earlier. When someone wrongs you, you go to them and tell them. If they say they're sorry and want to work it out, then great. If not, then you bring 1 or 2 people with you. If they still won't acknowledge their fault, you take it to the entire church community. If they still refuse to work it out, then that's it. You can cut them out of your life. You tried, and they weren't willing to work with you. Do you see what's going on here? Forgiveness takes both sides working it out. It takes a confrontation, an admission of wrongdoing, and some serious work on reconciliation. It might even involve the work of the entire community. That's how important reconciling with people is. You keep trying, and you keep asking people for help in making it happen. But if the other person just won't play ball, then you walk away. Some things don't get worked out. Some relationships don't get reconciled. But if the person is able to see their fault and are willing to work it out, then you keep at it. Even if they hurt you 70 times 7 times, you keep working it and forgiving 70 times 7 times. In the little interlude between these 2 teachings, we see Jesus talking about sins being retained or loosed. The things we forgive, we loose here on earth, will be made right in heaven. But the sins that don't get worked out here are retained in heaven. This means that Jesus assumes that some things aren't going to get worked out because some people will just be unwilling to recognize that they did anything wrong, that they hurt anyone, or that they have anything to say they're sorry for. But as long as there are people who are willing to work with you, then you never close the door on that relationship. There are at least 4 things here which inspire some questions and some thoughts. First, the NRSV says, "if a member of the church sins against you." But the Greek here literally says, "if your brother sins." The most common understanding of brother here might refer to other followers of Jesus. But remember that one of the features of Jesus' teaching ministry is that he's always expanding people's understanding of who is included. Jesus tells the famous parable of the Good Samaritan to answer the question, who is my neighbor? The point of that parable was that everyone is our neighbor. Is it possible that if someone challenged Jesus here by asking, and who is my brother, that Jesus might take a more expansive view than saying only a member in good standing of the church? I think what Jesus is definitely trying to say here is that his people, his community, are supposed to be known by reconciliation. We are the people who forgive each other. But I can't imagine that Jesus wouldn't want his people to extend that same level of grace and compassion on to anyone who was willing to express regret and sorrow over something they did. 2. The second thing is, are they really sorry? And how do we know? Sometimes my kids get into little fights. These usually end with someone in tears, running to me to tell me what happened. And then I tell the one who sounds the guiltiest to tell the other one that they are sorry. And they go over and I hear them say, sorry. And then we go, no, get back there. And this time say it like you mean it. This teaching of Jesus is rather vague about how someone is to determine whether the remorse and regret is genuine or not. I mean, sometimes it's easy to tell if something is genuine, but other times it's not so easy. 3, the third thing that this teaching on forgiveness appears to be about the normal, everyday hurts and betrayals that happen in the midst of normal life. It doesn't seem to be about the things on the outer edge of the human condition. Long-term abuse, murder, torture, the taking advantage of children or the elderly. While it doesn't explicitly say that the 70 times 7 forgiveness doesn't apply to these kind of offenses, that just doesn't seem to be the focus here. You don't go talk to someone when they murdered your loved one and then go back with a couple of friends to talk to them if they won't work it out. That isn't what this passage seems to be about. We might have to wait a little while longer to see what Jesus has to say about forgiveness in those situations. But one thing we can lay to rest here is the idea that Jesus teaches unconditional forgiveness. He does not. Forgiveness here is absolutely conditional on the two parties working it out. It's conditional on the offended party having the guts to go to the person who hurt them. And it's conditional on that person taking the feedback and expressing remorse. It's forgiveness that's conditional on actual reconciliation. And 4, of course, this passage isn't just directed towards the person doing the forgiving, but also to the person who offended in the first place. In life, we aren't just hurt by people. In the course of life, we end up hurting other people. We end up being the people who need to be forgiven. At some point in our lives, someone is going to sit us down and tell us how much they were hurt by something we did. And sometimes we're going to immediately realize our fault and we're going to try and work things out. And sometimes we're going to get totally defensive, which is going to become totally offensive, and then we're off to the races. In those instances, when they come to us, our job is to listen to what the person says to us and to have the grace to realize our fault and to seek their forgiveness, to repent of whatever it is we did, and to see to it to make things right in the future. And if we have our own beef with them, we bring that up separately at a later time. And man, is that hard. I mean, sometimes people are hurt by something that we never intended to be hurtful. We never imagined in a million years that they would be hurt by that. And maybe we have a different take on the situation. Maybe we disagree with their assessment of the events that led up to all this. Sometimes we're mad about something else entirely that we hadn't even had the chance to bring up yet. I kind of wonder if this isn't the wisdom of Jesus suggesting that other people come and help. That way they can almost serve as interpreters for each side when each side is talking past the other. Every situation is different, but the end here is the same. Reconciliation, the building up and the maintenance of relationships based on love and grace. Of course, sometimes reconciliation, forgiveness, might not mean that things will ever go back to normal. The former relationship might have to give way to a new way of relating to one another. And that might mean that we have to put distance between ourselves, or take a break for a while, or agree to disagree. That might end up being what active forgiving and repenting looks like. It might not be the ideal, but when is life always the ideal? So, what do you make of this? What do you think of Jesus' version of conditional forgiveness? And can you see yourself forgiving people 70 times 7 times? But before you answer those questions, here's a fun little philosophical exercise that just might help us understand how the 70 times 7 thing could work. French philosopher Jacques Derrida did a lot of work on the notion of the gift. A gift, a real gift, is never something earned. It is never given with the expectation of anything being given in return. It's meant to be freely given and freely received. This is, of course, not how gift giving usually ends up going in our culture. You give someone a gift, and if the person doesn't at least say thank you, don't you feel a little slighted? Like, hey, wait a minute. But even that thank you is something given in return. In this situation, the giving of a gift opened up a debt where the person was supposed to show their gratitude. But this is not the pure gift for Derrida. We also do this thing in our culture where if you give me a nice gift for your birthday, don't you expect a nice gift in return? I mean, if you give me a gift that's, say, worth $100, and when your birthday comes around, I give you a bookmark I made out of construction paper and some crayons, you might smile and say thank you, but inside, aren't you going to be like, hey, wait a minute? Because again, the giving of the $100 gift opened up a debt that was actually meant to be repaid with another nice gift of roughly the same value. If I gave you a return gift that was obviously much more valuable, say it's worth $1,000 because, I'm a good guy, then when my birthday came around again the next time, the perceived debt for you would be even larger. You'd need to get me a big gift too. This is not Derrida's notion of the pure gift. In a pure gift, the gift giver cannot expect or receive anything to fill the debt, not even, according to Derrida, feeling good about giving the gift. I mean, you could give an anonymous gift to someone. If they didn't know where the gift came from, they'd never be able to repay you or even say thank you. There would be no debt, but the gift giver could feel really good about giving that anonymous gift. And so it's not a pure gift because the gift giver gets something in return, even if it's only his self-satisfaction of being such a generous and swell guy. For Derrida, the only true pure gift can be a gift that the gift receiver didn't know he received, and the gift giver didn't know she gave, which I know sounds a little ridiculous, but Irish philosopher and theologian Peter Rollins has an idea here. He says that this unknown gift, given and received, could be, under the right circumstances, the gift of forgiveness. Rollins imagines a person who becomes so practiced at forgiveness that they might just forgive someone without even thinking about it. They're slighted, they're wronged, they're betrayed, they're offended, but their hearts are so soft and filled with grace that they just forgive. They remove the debt that is incurred by the offense just automatically, without even consciously thinking about it. The debt is wiped away, gone. There's no debt. And there it is, the pure gift. The person gave the gift of forgiveness without even knowing it. And the offending party was given the gift of forgiveness without even being aware of it. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe this could happen. Who knows? Perhaps it could even happen 70 times, 7 times.
Sorry. This is why you're paying a daughter to go to acting camp.
Okay.
Sorry. You said it after the head bop.
Like, sorry. Come on.
Sorry. I can't do it.